I cannot stress enough how much, to me, Sunday felt like a must-win game for the Chicago Bears. Sitting at 3-3, back-to-back losses against AFC East opponents. You're heading into that game Sunday at Soldier Field against a mediocre to below mediocre Jets team. At this point in time in the season, it really did feel like a must-win. Now, absolutely, if they would have found a way to lose this game, it doesn't automatically mean that their season is over. That said, though, you tell me how confident you would feel about the Bears' playoff chances, how confident you would feel in this team heading into the second half of the season if they lost 3 straight games against AFC East opponents. One of them was the Dolphins, and one of them was the Jets. 3-4, yeah, you're not feeling that good. So while it's early, we're talking about Week 8, only the 7th game of the year for the Bears, it did have a must-win type of feel to this game for me. And it's funny because heading into Sunday, there was like no doubt in my mind that the Bears were going to win this game. It just had that aura, that stench, that smell, that feel about it, that somehow, some way, no matter what, the Bears are going to win. And it just had an air of inevitability about it. And honestly, watching this game, it felt like kind of the Bears knew there was a feeling of inevitability about this and that they could sit there and kind of rope-a-dope and just keep stringing them along, and when they needed to, they would put them away. Now, granted, when you look at the game, they went up early on that 70-yard touchdown reception by Tariq Cohen. It was nice for the Bears to respond and start off the game early with a big play like that. Gets the fans going, gets the team pumped up, sends a message to the opposing side, and that's exactly what happened. But even with that big play, the Bears were only up 7-3 at halftime. And even though the game never felt in doubt, it did feel like the Bears just weren't clicking on all cylinders, that you don't want to let a team like the Jets continue to hang in the game, because if you do, you might find a way to lose the damn game that you clearly should win, because you clearly are the better team. But when you're up 7-3 at halftime at home, it's not a very good feeling. Defense was playing solid, but the offense, it was that one drive, and that was pretty much it. So in the second half, it was nice to see wide receiver 1, Anthony Miller, step up with that spectacular touchdown catch off of that great back shoulder-ish throw by Mitchell Trubisky. That really gave you some confidence and gave the Bears some breathing room. And they needed it because at one point in time in the fourth quarter, here come the Jets. They score a touchdown. All of a sudden, they're within 1 score. And then later on, about midway through the fourth quarter, Jordan Howard put away the game with that fourth quarter rushing touchdown. And 24-10, you knew at that point in time the game was over. And it was, and that ultimately ended up being the final score. So taking a look back at this Week 8 matchup, the good for the Bears, Darnold was less than effective. Held him to under 50% completions. Granted, you're taking on a team that really didn't have a lot of skill talent to begin with. They're without their best running back, in theory, in Bilal Powell. Now you're talking about Robbie Anderson being out. Jermaine Kearse goes out during the game. Not a great situation for Sam Darnold from an offensive standpoint. And the Bears took advantage of a rookie quarterback in a bad situation. That's good. That's what they should be doing. Trubisky, 0 turnovers. Not every game has to be rock star stuff. Sometimes, even with some of the mistakes or some of the bad throws and some of the trouble with accuracy that we saw play out in this game, and you see it reflected in his 55% completion percentage. Ultimately, the killers are the turnovers, and Mitch didn't have any of those on Sunday. When you're less than your best, but you don't do anything significant to help the Jets win, I'll take that as a positive thing for this week. 34 rushes total when you throw in Trubisky's runs versus 29 passes. There was a little bit more of a concerted effort to get the running game going, even though I'm still concerned that it's not as successful as it has been in previous seasons. The Bears need to balance out their game plan a little bit better. And when you really look at it right now, their gimmicks and tricks and formations are their identity on offense. And that's not exactly, to me, what you want your identity to be. You need to have something. Whether it's you stretch people out horizontally and then vertically in the passing game, whether you go deep, whether you hit a lot of quick stuff, whether you run the ball with speed, whether you run the ball downhill with power, something. And the Bears are lacking that offensive identity. And I would like to see, as we get into the second half of the season, more balance in the play calling, especially with a young rookie quarterback who's been a bit up and down. And then you look at their rushing defense, 35 rushing yards allowed on 19 total running back carries. That's a good performance. Rookie quarterback without much to work with outside. You take away the running game, you're going to win that game more often than not. And that's what the Bears did. Now, the bad, you got to look at Allen Robinson, Khalil Mack missing the game with injury. It's a cool thing, good thing. Bears were able to win somewhat comfortably without him. But your best player, Khalil Mack, isn't on the field. And another one of your top 3 to 5 best players on the team, and Allen Robinson, isn't there. It's good that you won without him, but you don't want to see these be lingering long-term issues because the Bears have some talent, yes, but they don't have the level of talent on both sides of the ball to be able to overcome marquee injuries for long times to guys like Mack and Robinson. Then when the game gets underway and you're going throughout the game, here comes a Kyle Long foot injury, and let's see how long he is going to be ultimately on the shelf for a guy who's played well at times but had trouble the past couple of years staying healthy. This is the last thing you wanted to see. And probably some Bears fans would say the last thing they ever want to see again is a Cody Parkey field goal attempt. He missed another field goal on Sunday. You know, I really hope the couple of $1 million they saved in the salary cap to get rid of Robbie Gould was really worth it because the Bears still haven't found that kicker. They really haven't. My number one concern coming out of this game was they only sacked Sam Darnold one time. Now, they got some pressure on him. Darnold did a good job of escaping. He was under some duress, but they only got home once, and they didn't force any turnovers against a rookie quarterback with limited skill talent outside, porous protection up front. You didn't force a turnover or anything like that. That was a little concerning. But ultimately, the Bears still did enough to get the job done. And bringing it all home here, this whole game to me was kind of blah. Like, the Bears really needed it. It had a must-win urgency to me. But at the same point in time, I was just kind of felt like I was going through the motions watching. I never worried about the Bears losing. And I felt like they should have won by a much larger margin than they ultimately did. But they still ultimately won by 2 touchdowns. And a win is a win in the NFL, and you always take it. That said, not every win needs to be pretty or spectacular. You're going to have games like this where you're not at your best offensively, and the Bears weren't at their best offensively Sunday, surely. And honestly, you could say, well, their defense was pretty good. But, you know, look at what they were going against. It wasn't a great dominant performance. It was like they were doing just enough to get by, just enough to ensure victory. But not every game is going to be pretty or spectacular. Not every game needs to be pretty or spectacular. And when you look at it now, the Chicago Bears are sitting atop the NFC North. They're in first place, 4-3, a game they had to have, and they got it. Get ready to go into Buffalo next week. You know, and it's just, it's on the one hand, it's like the Bears have a winning record. They're in first place in their division. They have a young quarterback who hasn't been great, in my opinion, but he hasn't totally, completely face-planted either. They've got some nice talent on both sides of the ball. Like, there is a reason for optimism here. And it feels kind of weird because it's like they could be better, and frankly, they should be better, and they definitely should have a better record. But I have to kind of pull myself in a little bit and remind myself that this is what it feels to have expectations for a change. This is what it feels like to expect the Bears to actually win some damn games and be viable and be competitive and be a playoff type of team. It's not a feeling I'm very familiar with as an adult male. It's nice to have it. And it almost feels like I'm taking for granted a 2-touchdown victory. And that's what I'm doing. And you know what? I can live with that. And I'm okay with that. The Bears handled business even if it wasn't always pretty. I'll go right on keeping feeling blah if they continue to win games like this one.